another episode of the Transfer Portal CFB podcast presented by NoContextCFB. I'm your host, Bill, and we're going to be like Adam out here who is snowed into his house out there. How are we living?
I wouldn't say I'm snowed in, I'm more iced in. It's not much snow, but morale is low. Morale is low right now. I'm not used to being inside for this long. Try and go outside, it was cold. It's not great.
I feel you, man. I empathize with you. I mean, I can't say I sympathize because I'm out here, 45 degrees and doing just fine. So, no snow on the ground. Everything is nice and easy. But, I feel for you, man. Hopefully everything clears up pretty soon and you can get back out there and do whatever it is that Mr. Adam Coleman does.
I like your shirt, though.
Yes, sir, man. I'm pretty sure this is the first podcast we've had where we've got some Transfer Portal official merch. We're not selling it just yet, but this is just for the co-founders as of right now. Maybe we'll sell it someday once we've got the LLC going on. So definitely looking forward to wearing this more on the show and representing the Transfer Portal CFB. I'm hoping to get a hat soon to match. So I'm head to toe.
What color is the hat? I feel like the hat can't be blue.
No, I'm thinking black. It's black. You can match with everything. Yeah, nice and easy. I'm always a black hat guy though, so works for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're in the thick of the off season here, man. There's not a lot going on. The Shrine Bowl is as we're recording right now, so go on and check out the YouTube channel for that. Liam and special guests were on the pod talking about that a little bit. So today we wanted to talk about some of the coaching carousel news that's still going on. We talked about it a little bit, you and I, about the Alabama offensive coordinator opening. Tommy Rees has been linked to it about a week after Washington OC Ryan Grubb was linked to it, and apparently he turned it down. So I'm curious about your thoughts on, Tommy Rees potentially leaving his alma mater 1 year after he was like, no, I'm good to leaving to go into LSU with Brian Kelly and staying put. And, do you think this will be a good fit for Alabama?
I think it's a great fit for Tommy Rees because it seems like the Alabama OC, if you succeed there, it catapults you to whatever job you want to be. Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian. But for Alabama, I guess it makes sense. I'm not sure. I think there's better options, but I don't think it's terrible. I've seen some people think it's just a terrible move. I think for what Alabama has, Tommy Rees has shown that he's able to work with, I don't want to say lesser options, but that Notre Dame team wasn't spectacular, right? Don't really have a quarterback at Alabama yet, so you need someone that can kind of, make things work when all the pieces aren't set. And Tommy Rees has done that. So I think it makes sense for both sides.
You got to remember, Tommy Rees will be 31 years old this upcoming season. And he's already been an offensive coordinator for 3 years, has worked at the NFL level for a year with the Chargers, has been a quarterback at the college level at Notre Dame, got some starts, was the backup when they lost, coincidentally to Alabama in the national championship in 2012. So, he's a rising star in the ranks. And I remember last year he said something about how there are very, very few options or deals out there that could take me away from Notre Dame, as that's his alma mater, his dream school, all that sort of stuff. And like you said, there's not a lot necessarily, there hasn't been a lot to work with for him at Notre Dame. Not necessarily a talent. I wouldn't say a deprived source at Notre Dame. They do have some talent, have some guys, but the quarterbacks that he's worked with haven't necessarily been NFL guys. Ian Book is probably the top guy there. Drew Pine had some moments this year, but you think he'd like the opportunity to coach Sam Hartman this year, and you probably think that Sam Hartman, a big reason why he came to South Bend was to work with Tommy Rees. So this is one of the very few options that he mentioned I think would be better for Tommy Rees. But like you said, for Alabama, you like the opportunity to have a young offensive coordinator because that's the way college football is going. And, Nick Saban has until 2029 for his his contract when he'll be 78 when that runs through. And he's talked about how that would be, the ideal move would be to go through that contract. And, maybe what he's hiring right now could be his potential replacement down the line at the end of the decade. Who knows? The coaching carousel, guys just don't stick around at the assistant positions for longer than 3-4 years at this point. So, you never know. I mean, I think Tommy Rees kind of has a general idea of how to run an offense, a balanced offense at that, because Alabama, they like to run the ball, but they've had prolific passers over the years. Mac Jones, Tua, Bryce Young. I think the Notre Dame passing offense has left a little bit to be desired, even with a quarterback at the helm there, calling the plays. But working with Nick Saban and some of those guys on the staff, and obviously having probably a bit more talent, you could safely say, on the Alabama roster than the Notre Dame roster, I think Rees would be set up for success. But I tend to agree with you. I think Alabama could probably do a little bit better here. It's kind of weird that they would go for a guy who's only been a coordinator for a couple of years. It doesn't really seem like a Nick Saban move.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. Nick Saban, he's the best in my opinion. That's why I think he's been good for so long at adjusting and shifting his beliefs to how college football is going. The air raid, the spread offense, he hated that. And now look, that's what they run. Transfer portal, NIL, he didn't really like it, but he's getting with the program. And like you said, that the shift is going from to young coordinators, because I think that's just what works. That's how you're able to reach kids. You build a relationship with kids easier. Just if you're younger, you're more in tune. And there probably are better coaching options than Tommy Rees, but there might not be better personnel, like people person options.
Sure.
And I think that might have been the key factor. Tommy Rees can reach his young quarterback, his young team, and develop them better than, say, an older, more established offensive coordinator could. So,
sure.
Shout out to him.
I think the last time, if I remember correctly, if I read this right, I think the last time Nick Saban hired a super young coordinator was when he was at LSU, and he brought in Will Muschamp at defensive coordinator. I think he was like 31, 32 at the time. So this isn't completely new territory for Nick Saban to hire a younger, potentially, this isn't agreed upon yet, but to potentially bring in a younger coordinator. And I think that's the way they want to go, because, Ryan Grubb, I think, is a rising star as well. And I'm not quite sure how old Grubb is, but I think he's a younger guy. He's been around a bit longer than Rees has at the coaching level. But he's still getting his feet wet at the Power 5 level. Washington, this is his first year at the Power 5 level after spending some time with Fresno State and Eastern Michigan. So, I think Rees is probably I don't want to say it's a step down from what Grubb could have been, because we don't really know what Grubb, his ceiling is, because, this was year one under Washington. This could have been a really good fit for Ryan Grubb in Alabama. I think I like that fit a little bit better. But at the same time, Washington had a very pass-heavy offense. And I don't know if that's the route that Nick Saban would want to go, even though I think that is, like we talked about, the trend a little bit is more of a pass-heavy offense in the spread offense, like you talked about. So, Grubb, I think Grubb is smart to turn it down, to be honest with you. I think they've got something building in Washington and in Seattle. That's a really good place for him to stick with Kalen DeBoer, who he stuck around with for a couple of years at Fresno State. And, I don't really see Tommy Rees taking this job, because, he seems like a guy who's very committed to his alma mater. Seems like a guy who wants to build that program. And I think the offense has a little bit more potential than it's had in a couple of years with Sam Hartman coming in. So I don't know. If Rees isn't the guy, who do you think they should go after?
Oh, man. I think if he's not the guy, they got to pick somebody young. That's clearly what they want. I remember when we did our – clearly it's not going to – I don't think it's going to be Joe Brady, right? I don't know. I don't know, honestly. I wouldn't want to be in Nick Saban's position, because you got to figure this out quick, huh?
Well, here's the crazy headline from this. If Reese turns him down, that's two coordinators that
Yeah.
turned down Nick Saban. Like how we usually don't get a lot of, the headlines, the confirmed headlines about like, oh, this guy for sure turned it down. It's usually just reports. So there's only kind of reports and rumors about the whole Grub situation, and then with the Reese situation, a lot of it is sources. I think Football Scoop was the first one to report the Tommy Rees Zoom meeting, and they've got like a private jet out there for him at South Bend that picked him up, and they're out here spending a whole day talking ball. But if that's two coordinators that have talked with Saban and learned about his vision, what he wants for that role, and they both turned him down, does Nick Saban still got it? Is that something that we need to start asking?
Might not have the juice. See, we know he can still recruit players because they have number one class, but yeah, if he doesn't get his guy, do you think he goes for just kind of a safe hire, maybe on a short-term deal? Kind of what I see him doing.
Hiring from within, perhaps. Maybe bring a former quarterback from days past, bring in like Blake Sims or something like that. Like, hey, you used to be a quarterback here. Do you want to call some plays for Alabama?
McCarron.
Yeah, AJ McCarron. Hey, what are you out there doing these days? He's not on an NFL roster, I don't think. Come coach for me. I mean, Nick Saban was a defensive guy. He can't call. They're not going to pull a Matt Patricia with the Patriots. They're not going to have him calling offensive plays. I mean, I'm sure he's smart enough to probably put it together, but like, is that the last resort? Is Nick Saban saying, screw it, I'll do it myself?
That would be funny. And knowing Nick Saban, he'd probably be amazing at it, and they end up winning.
That would just be like the cherry on top of his career. Like, in his last year at 71, 72 years old, just saying, hey, you know what? Let's try something new. Let's just screw around here. Let's call offensive plays.
House money now. You might as well, right?
Yeah. Just saying, hey, you know what? What else do I have to prove? So let me just call offensive plays, and let's win a natty with me just saying screw it. And I'll create a system that fits what I think we need. And yeah, watch him win. Wouldn't that be insane?
I want to see that now. Yeah, we got to start the petition.
See if we can get that to Nick's desk.
Yeah.
But speaking of NIL, we talked about that's kind of the trend these days. And National Signing Day just passed, and Alabama had the top recruiting class. But you have to wonder how big of a role did that NIL play in bringing in such an elite class? And it doesn't seem like it's got a complete chokehold on college football recruiting yet. But for some guys, that seems to be the whole factor there. Like Jaden Rashada pretty much only signed with Florida because of that, what was it, $13 million deal that they were going to spread out across 4 years or whatever it was. So, some guys, that is the complete priority. Like these guys just want to bag while they can, while they're at the college level. I'm not saying I blame them. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I'm not going to be the old man screaming at the cloud or anything. I like that players can get this, but at the same time, if you're a head coach or assistant coaches, it completely changes the way that you recruit high school kids, because now they're like, hey, for example, if you're Nick Saban, you're talking to this kid who's getting 13 million from Florida or 10 million from Miami or whatever. Like, how do you compete with that? Does, the ability to recruit guys to go to the NFL or to win championships, does that get you anywhere anymore? I mean, it seems like a crazy question to ask, but it doesn't seem like you have to be this NFL factory or, insanely genius coach to get a high school recruit, because, money talks.
Yeah, I was going to say, it depends on your mindset. For some coaches, it's easier, right? You don't have to sit there and go watch this kid's basketball game, go watch his baseball game in the off season. You can, okay, what do you want? How much you want? Okay, welcome aboard, and you're done. But I will say, I think that for some coaches, it's also easier in the other way, that if all the kid wants is money, you kind of see where his mindset is at, and you might not want that at your program. It's a quick way to tell who really wants to be here, and he wants to be here because of money, and that doesn't always work. Especially in college, when you have young kids who they're not the best at making decisions. We were there once, right? So, and you kind of see that at Texas A&M, where you have all these transfers and stuff. A lot of them might have been there for money, and but they didn't really want to be there. And so, if you don't win, and a player doesn't want to be there, problems are just bound to happen. And I think Nick Saban kind of touched on that in the interview once as well. But and it's something that I worry about for my school because we're big on NIL too. I wonder how many kids actually want to be there.
I think the transfer portal it showed you, all those guys that transferred that were elite recruits that went to A&M that didn't get a lot of playing time. It's like, of course the NIL is the reason why you go there, perhaps, but if you're not getting playing time and then you leave, it's like, well, did you just really just want to get the bag and leave? Was that the whole point? What's the point of putting out pads and writing signing the NIL or NLI rather. If you're just there to get a bag and not try to help your team win, it feels like there's kind of it's not a trend yet, I wouldn't say, but it feels like there are a lot of kids out there now who don't have the pedigree for winning and competition. They really just want the opportunity to build their own brand and to make money. And I really can't say I blame them. If the opportunity's there, take it. It's absolutely, it's easy. I shouldn't say it's easy because not every kid gets the Power 5 offers, but if you are an elite recruit, it is easy for you to get money as a high school kid. And now you've got these kids who are getting, marketing agents and reps and all that sort of stuff. I mean, when I was 17, 18 years old, I didn't know shit about making and keeping money. So, that's something that kind of worries me too, is like, what are these kids getting themselves into? How educated are they? Are high school football coaches, telling these kids about all this NIL stuff? Are their parents having to do this? Like, with everything going on with so many kids with offers left and right and visits, and some of them play multiple sports, like, how in tune are they with NIL and what it actually means and what they can make money off of? And how do they know that some of these companies aren't, screwing them and just trying to make, a buck off of their name, image, and likeness? So I don't know. There's a lot of things to consider if you're an 18-year-old kid that's getting offers from every Power 5 school.
Yeah, and I would say to play devil's advocate for the people that hate NIL, or I don't say hate, they don't like it. I kind of understand where they're coming from. Me, I'm all for it. I think they should get paid. Right? I love it. But it kind of the reason why we love college football is because how close everything is. Right? We're on the same campus. It's just I feel like it's just more passion than the NFL, and I think a lot of that comes from you choose to go there, you're not getting paid to go there, right? In the NFL, a lot of players they go there because they get offered, a lot of money, right? They're not really fans of the university. There's no Stetson Bennett, there's no Sam Ellinger wearing a Texas jersey and then wanting to play for the Longhorns. With NIL, you're getting more of that NFL feel where, as fans, right, we love our teams, right? But a player might not love the team as much. To him, it might be it's just a game. And college, I think some people are worried that we might lose that passion from some of the players. And we already see it with coaches. They don't care. They'll leave right away.
You've got to compare it to adults who take jobs that they don't really want, but it's because the pay's good. It's like you're not putting on a happy face every day. You're not following a passion. But if an opportunity is there and you might not get another opportunity like that, look at Jaden Rashada. Chances are, if that collective deal hadn't played off, hadn't fallen through, rather, he probably would have stayed at Florida. But would he have really wanted to be there? When he committed to Arizona State, he was talking about, this is my true home. This is I believe he said it was my dad's alma mater. This is kind of where he wanted to be all along, was the vibe that he put out. So, he had originally committed to Miami. There's NIL stuff going on there. Same thing at Florida. I'm really just using Rashad as an example here, but he's kind of the poster child of this. NIL madness at this point at the college football level. So I think you nailed it with the passion and the kids that want to be there. The whole reason why before NIL that you committed to a school is because you committed to the school. You committed to a coach, a coaching staff, a brand, even in the case of Alabama, LSU, Oregon, Michigan, that sort of thing. You commit to all of that. And of course, there are schools that had more resources for these kids, like the schools I mentioned, more so than, the group of five or FCS schools. And there's reason to want to go there because those schools can help you get a better career down the line after football. In the NFL draft, that there's a better potential of you going to the NFL from schools like that. But now, with money like Rashada was getting offered, you don't really need to go to the NFL. You don't really need to find a school that's going to help you get there if they're offering you that, because $13 million is life-changing money. On top of having your scholarship already paid for and, everything that you're doing on campus paid for, 13 million on top of that over 4 years, of course you can make more money in the NFL than that for sure with the money that, starting quarterbacks are making nowadays, but you don't absolutely need to go to a school and try to get to the NFL to get a bag. You can just go to college, get your bag and leave if you really want to.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why I love it, because before, if let's just take Jalen Rashada, say he goes to Florida, he gets hurt, right? His a career-ending injury. Well, the school owes him nothing now, but an education. But we all know that's not enough there's not equal compensation for what these football players bring to the program. I don't care what anybody says, it's not. I just wish that there was some middle ground. I think we're going to get there. Right now, it's just a free for all. I wish there was some middle ground where players are able to benefit for what they do for the university, but it's not just the highest bidder is going to win, right? I'm not going to say a salary cap, but just some sort of rules and regulations where like players have to get compensated, right? Reggie Bush, Johnny Manziel, they deserve to get compensated for everything that they've done. But I just need that middle ground. Now, I think we're going to get there. We have to, or else this is going to be the Wild Wild West. I hope we get there soon, though.
For sure. And here's another thing to keep in mind, and a reason why I'm for, potentially kids just getting a bag and leaving. I'm, like I said, it might sound like I'm against it. I'm just trying to think of all sides here. But if a kid does, get his NIL and get that money and then gets like a training camp deal in the NFL or a preseason deal, and he's, doesn't get a huge rookie contract. The thing in the NFL, and I might have my numbers wrong here. I'm not 100% sure where they're at specifically, but a lot of times NFL players, the longer you play, you will become like a vested player. And you will get, like a pension, I believe, and you'll get, insurance and all that sort of stuff. I think it's 3 or 4 years after your third year, entering your fourth, maybe, where you get some more money. And I know this was a lot of topic when DeMar Hamlin had his injury because he was only in his second or third year and he didn't have that pension and insurance and all that sort of stuff. And they had to put in like a waiver to get that for him because he wasn't a vested player yet. So if for whatever reason, if a player, an elite player from a college, a Power 5 college, gets to the NFL and gets hurt and doesn't get, that backup, then the NIL money can definitely play into that as well. So it's just always an insurance blanket, if you will, for whatever happens after football or whatever happens after even their college career entering the NFL. So it's always nice to have that. And plus, I've been friends with college athletes before NIL was a thing. And, sometimes I'd have to pay for them, if we went to like, Chipotle or whatever it is, because a lot of times back then, college athletes, you can't really get jobs because, the weight of school and practice and all that stuff, you just don't have time to make money. And, even though you have a scholarship paid for and all that stuff, of course, that's great, but, you don't have that. You didn't have that income before. So, you can always just get, a snack at the grab and go, or, get yourself a meal at in between classes or whatever. So that, NIL helps with that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think all in all, it's a good thing for college football and the players, and that's really all that matters. Um,
Yeah.
I don't really care about the universities or the NCAA if they don't like
Well, we're not here to advocate for the NCAA. That's not what we're about.
it. No.
But I'm curious about the Rashada thing specifically. Do you feel like this is an anomaly at this point in college football and college sports in general, or do you think we're really going to see more stories like this? And if so, do you think there needs to be regulation on like what uh, collectives within the university can do? Like for example, Oregon's got boosters all over the place, like Phil Knight, Nike. And same thing with like Michigan, Oklahoma. They've got Jordan. North Carolina, they got Jordan. So do you think those collectives, um, do you think there should be some sort of regulation around any of that for high school kids specifically?
Um, yes, because for one, it seems like you're taking advantage of someone who doesn't really, like I said, we in high school we don't know how to make the best decisions, right? We we're kind of just tunnel vision. We can't see the bigger picture, and it seems like a lot of these schools or I mean, it's a way for them to take advantage of that. I don't think this is going to be the last time. I don't think it's been the first time. It's just been the most publicized, in my opinion. It's tough. It's a weird situation. Like 13 mil, and then they said that they didn't have the 13 mils. Is that the official story?
Something fell through. I don't know if it was they didn't have the money. I think that was a report I did see, or maybe something just fell through. I'm not 100% sure what exactly happened, but yeah, it fell apart.
Yeah. I don't think this is gonna be the last time. It's just so these big time programs are gonna just throw cash at these kids, and it. I'm glad that it fell through before he signed, right?
Yeah.
Because if it didn't, then that looks really bad on the university. Um, so he's where he ended up where he wants to be. So all in all, I call it a win, but I don't think it's gonna be the last time. And I think like I said, they got to put some sort of rules. Cap, you have to play a certain amount of games. Even one game, I don't even care. They can appear in one game, be on the roster for one game, and they're good. But something.
What you said kind of, and I agree with you, but I think it brings up another point where you said, I'm glad it happened before he signed. But at the same time, should any of that even happen before he signs? Like, should the NIL conversation even be a part of recruiting, I guess, if you want to zoom out a little bit, should all this NIL talk, collective booster talk, these deals with big companies, should any of that play into recruiting before a kid signs? You have to kind of know it's coming, if you end up going to a school and signing. So it's kind of hard to like keep it away from a kid before they sign. But at the same time, it feels like they're just kind of using it to get kids that maybe don't even fit their football team, or the kid doesn't even want to be a part of that program. They're just kind of like dangling money in front of their face and having them, go chase it down. So, we talked about the passion thing. I feel like when you're throwing money at them before they've signed anything to a school, you're kind of testing where the priorities are. And I think maybe that could be an area of regulation is when these negotiations can happen. Because it feels like, high school sophomores and juniors even, they're getting recruited now, and getting offers. And who knows when it starts? Are you throwing these deals at high school sophomores and juniors?
I
How
mean,
many NIL
they
deals do you
probably
think
are.
Ronnie was getting?
They probably are. I think it's one of those things where if I don't do it, I know another school is. I think that's what it's coming down to. So it's like they probably know, like, yeah, I probably shouldn't be offering this 14-year-old freshman, $1 million NIL deal. But if I don't do it now and kind of get in good with him and build that relationship, Nick Saban's going to do it in 2 years, and then I'm not Nick Saban, so I'm gonna lose out. So I think it's kind of like these. In my opinion, it seems like these smaller schools are trying to catch up. This is their end, their route to catching Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State. And so I think that's where you're seeing all these huge deals for these players coming in.
I feel like something that came to my mind is like an unpaid intern versus someone who's on salary. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
if you're on a team with all these guys like superstars who are getting all this money, but yet you weren't getting all the NIL stuff, does your commitment to the coach and to the program kind of waver a little bit because you're not getting that money while you're in school? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, and I think it kind of does. I think that's where it comes down to: are you where you want to be, right? If you're where you want to be, you love the school that you play for, then you'll be happy for your brothers, and you got to get better to get your own bag, you know. But if you sign to somewhere for, let's say, 200K, and you don't want to be there, and then somebody else who's coming in is getting even more, then that's when problems happen.
This is a very lengthy conversation about just, I feel like we're going in circles, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to get the wheels turning here a little bit because NIL, there's, like we've talked about, there's a lot to it and a lot that
It's a
every
rabbit hole.
school, every coach, everybody's got to figure this out because it's far from figured out. And I'm glad we're having these conversations that kids can actually have these opportunities. Um, but of course, there's a lot to figure out about it. So, is there anything else you wanted to bring up while we're spewing about NIL and why it seems like I might hate it even though I don't? I promise you.
Dan's gonna write an article about you, Dylan.
Oh
You
yeah,
need to watch out.
yeah. I was in response to Dylan Rubin King's blabbermouth thing on the NIL podcast. Yeah, looking forward to it, Dan.
But no, I think we pretty much covered it. Just figure it out, somebody.
Yeah. No, I mean, these schools can really do whatever they want. I mean, a lot of these Power Five schools have a lot of money, from TV deals, from, like Oregon. I use Nike as a example because, that's probably the one that's playing the biggest role is Nike, Jordan, Adidas, all these ones that are giving them, all this gear and stuff like that. I kind of use that as the biggest example, but those schools, they can really do whatever the hell they want. And I feel like they're gonna find a way to bend the rules anyway because they're Alabama, because they're Michigan, because they're Georgia, because they're Oregon, and they have all this money. I feel like they kind of get to say over, what the NCAA thinks because it's like, hey, we've got all this money, we can pay whoever the hell we want, whatever the hell we want. And they still have the freedom to get deals outside of the school collective, outside of the boosters. They can go get on Dr. Pepper commercials if they want to while they're still in school. And, there's nothing that the NCAA can really do about it because they approved that rule and they approved it without, I feel like they didn't really think it through as much. I'm sure there was a lot of thought process to it, but there were so many other loopholes and opportunities that I don't really think the NCAA considered when they put that into effect.
Didn't they lose a court ruling, so they didn't have a choice?
Yeah, no, they didn't have a choice. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. It wasn't the NCAA's necessarily approval of it, but obviously they have to abide by it.
Yeah. They had an opportunity to do
Yeah.
it, but they chose not to. And so here's what we get. Once again, NCAA let us down.
That's nice. Yeah, thank you for correcting me on that. Yeah, it was not completely there, up to them, which I'm kind of glad it wasn't because, the NCAA has enough overarching power, I think. So I'm glad that this came down to the court and it came down to, legalities and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's still a lot to figure out. So did I miss anything? Do we have anything else on the docket to talk about today?
No, I think we got it.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to my ill-informed garbage, I'm sure is what somebody on YouTube is probably going to say about the NIL. But of course, I'm very excited about the opportunities. I don't know if that's clear, but I'm excited about the opportunities that kids can get. And I feel bad for the Reggie Bushes and the Johnny Manziels of the world that could have made some serious, just stupid money off of NIL back in the day. But I'm sure that, it's only going to get better and it's only going to get crazier from here on out. So feel free to let us know what you think about the NIL and how it plays into recruiting and the transfer portal and all that sort of stuff. Make sure to like and subscribe. We've got a lot of YouTube content, a lot of Spotify, Apple content coming for you. So however you check out our content, make sure you are plugged in, because even though it's the off season, we don't sleep. So thank you everybody so much for tuning in, and we will see you in the next podcast.